Hi, Martha. Hi, Terry. Hey, Terry. Hi, Tom. You're on mute, aren't you?
Yeah, there we go.
All
Yay!
right, great. Well, I think Ben is supposed to be running this, but he's also on vacation, and he said that he might. Well, I got the impression he was going to try to do this, but you know how things go when you're on vacation, right? So
Yeah.
So I'll be running the show tonight, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Excellent. So I'm used to doing Google meetings, so I'm not really sure. You're gonna have to help me.
Okay, well, I'm not so polished with Zoom either. I usually use Microsoft Teams for my meetings,
Okay.
but we'll work through it. We'll get there. I think it's recording us already.
Yeah, I think it is.
I might just stop the recording and we can start it. Try to remind me to start it again before we get going here. All right. I'll give it just one more minute and then we'll get started.
Sounds good. No, I didn't know about that. Wow.
All right, it's 7 o'clock exactly, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. We've got lots of people online. So welcome to St. Paul Audubon Society meeting. And our speakers tonight are Terry Scheller and Tom Amble. And Terry is an exhibit designer at the Minnesota Historical Society. And she's currently working on a new Split Rock Lighthouse exhibit and the revitalization of historic Fort Snelling. And Tom Amble is recently retired from the Bell Museum, where he was an exhibits coordinator up until November 18, and is currently working as a consultant when he's not birding in the tropics with Terry. So
the life of Riley.
There you go. So I'm going to let you share your screen now, Tom and Terry, and we can get started.
Excellent. All right. Bear with me while I, yeah. Okay. Come on, behave. Here we go. All right. Can you see that okay, Stuart?
You can see it just fine. Thank you.
All right. Excellent. So we're Tom and Terry, and we've been going to South America. Oh, it started back in 2005. And in 2005, we took a big trip to go see Machu Picchu and did a horse trek and the whole bit. And I was just so amazed at all the birds there. And when it came time for me to turn 50 years old, I thought it would be really super cool to go back to South America and see birds. And we were so fortunate at that time, the Sierra Club had a birding in Ecuador trip. and we signed up for it. And it's sort of like that just sort of like sealed the deal. It was so amazing. We saw so many cool things. It wasn't just about birds. There were animals and culture and super cool people and a wonderful environment. And, uh, and then after that, it's like every 2 years we made an effort to kind of get down there. And we've been in Peru twice, Brazil 3 times. So we're talking about going back to Peru. It's amazing to go birding there. So here we are. This last time we were in Ecuador in October and November in 2021. And we also had another trip planned that same year. So we did them back to back. The Ecuador was supposed to be in 2020. And unfortunately, COVID pushed that off. So we ended up doing 2 trips at once. So we were out of the country for 43 days. And it was awesome. So excellent. Right. Oh, by the way, I have thousands and thousands of pictures. So I'm not sure how far we'll get into. I mean, it's just not that I loaded on this deck, but just so you know, there are, I didn't know how many to put on to the show. So here's our country, Ecuador. As you can see, there's a gigantic mountain range down the spine of it. And it causes all sorts of things like high altitude birding, Amazon on your right, over here, and then you've got coastal on your left, and there's dry forest, rainforest, cloud forest, mangrove forest. It's very, very rich. And this is pretty much where we have been throughout Ecuador. This is probably one spot where we really haven't hit it, or along here, but for the most part, we've kind of seen a lot of Ecuador, and I still want to go back. It's amazing. I've kind of broken it up into 4 areas. First, we're going to talk about Mindo, which if you haven't ever been to Ecuador, that is like your must-see place. You have to go there. It is amazing. It's very birdy. It's magical. It'll make you want to go back. Then we go over to Antisana, which is high elevation, and we go to Cuenca as well. 2 places that are high in the mountains. You get a unique type of birds. I hate this when my computer does it. And then we go on to the Amazon basin, and then the last part of this is about this area, the southern Ecuador. All right, so like I said, I took thousands of pictures, so I apologize for all the photos you're gonna see. So again, I was talking about Mindo. It's a cloud forest area, 4,000 to 10,000 feet. It was in South America. It's the first designated important bird area. I think that was in 1997. And like I said, for your first time in Ecuador, you have to just put it on your list. It's just really magical. You'll see amazing birds like turquoise jay. They're very curious birds, so it's really easy to take their photo. Then there's trogons. This one's a masked trogon. They're kind of sneaky. They don't make a lot of noise, and they sit there on the branch looking around, spying their eye up to the sky, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, there's a bird right there. And it happens to be a stunning, this was a masked trogon. And then you get gorgeous birds like motmots. This is a broad-billed motmot, and they're fun birds because they manipulate their long tails and create these little rackets at the end. And then to let you know that they see you, they move their tail back and forth like a clock. And so they're kind of adorable. Oh, all right. So here's a star. If you go to Ecuador, it's Maria the giant Ampida. And back, I think around the year 2005 or so, a man named Angel Paz was going to clear out some land for his farm, and he kept noticing this little bird was like following him, and so he would kind of feed it, and then it grew accustomed to him, Well, it happened to be this very hard to see giant ant pita. So he discovered that he could pretty much train the bird. Now it's still a wild bird. It hasn't ever been in a cage or anything like that. But train the bird to come when he kind of does like a little call. In this case, it was like, Maria, 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 Maria. And then he would have like a little snack for her. Well, that just like blew up the birding world, that he could call in a giant ant pita, and it just blew everybody's mind. So when we were there, we got to meet Angel, meet Maria, and then we also met, he also happened to have all these other ant pitas that showed up, like a yellow-breasted ant pita, a mustached ant pita. I think he called this one Willie. And then there was a ochre breasted ant pita, and this one was Shakira. So he had names for all these little cuties. And then along with these ant pitas, he also had a blind where you could sit and watch, be at a lek of the cock of the rock, which is this really crazy bird. And so the males would gather, and if a female came in, they made all sorts of racket, and they were throwing themselves, launching themselves while still on the branch, off the branch and coming back up. It's super fun to watch. They're just crazy to look at, gorgeous. So you get to see that. He also had toucan barbettes, but unfortunately I didn't have any great photos to share with you about those. And then here is Angel with me. And then when he was just starting out, now his business has exploded. He has he's rented out land. His brother now is doing this. They've got fancy cars, but he started out from humble beginnings. And this was like his farmstead. And we were in a building above the hillside. And down here, we were having like a little snack. He also, after you got there, after you saw the birds, you relaxed with coffee and this homemade corn ball thing that was super tasty. And while we were sitting there, a guy was calling in his cows, and he was singing to them, and the bells were ringing off their necks, and it was just so magical. It was just amazing. It's just I'm in heaven. So that's Angel. And like I said, he has now influenced so many other people to think about how to treat the land the same. And because he makes a lot more money having people visit his birds than him farming. So it's kind of revolutionized birding in Ecuador. Here's our next guy. He's the up and coming Angel Paz, Dario. So not only is he calling in ant pitas, he's also has like a huge hummingbird station. So you can come at Zora Loma. It's in the area where Angel is. It's right near Yanacocha, which is a very famous birding spot. And you go and you look at great hummingbirds and tanagers and guans. Here's a beautiful hummingbird and masked flower piercers, but he also does ant pitas. So this is an equatorial ant pita, but the best bird of all, even better than the ant pitas, are the ocellated tapaculos. These birds are super, super hard to see. They hang out in really dense thickets. The only time I've ever seen them was like a little shadow at the base of some shrubbery while I was crouched down and lying in the dirt. So he got them to come out onto a tree branch and again respond to his calls. He feeds them a little snack. They come on out, and it's amazing. So here is a male and female, and the male was doing a display. It was beautiful, and then another one came in as well. So it wasn't just these two, a pair. It was like, so again, you must go to Mindo. Again, hummingbirds are amazing here. This is a booted racket tail. And then of course there's the gigantic birds like toucans, toucanettes, and arasaris. This is a collared arasari. This is what it looks like when you walk on the little country roads in the Mindo area. Usually you're up early, and then you come back for lunch, then you go out for afternoon walk. This is I don't know if you could see the bird, it's right here. It's a plate-billed mountain toucan. And we were on the opposite side of this tree on the road up above, and we saw the bird come in, fly in, and it landed on the tree, but we never saw it again. And Tom and I are like, where did the bird go? Well, we moved a little bit further down, and then we saw the hole. We're like, oh my gosh, did it go in there? Because we didn't see the bird yet. We just saw it, and then it disappeared. So we waited for about a half hour, and then we were really surprised and amazed to see this bird come in. And then we're like, no way, it can't go into that little hole. Yes, it did. It squished its little self in there. And then we watched it emerge. Like, how the heck? But that was really amazing moment for us. So here you see a crimson rump toucanet. Again, lots of tanagers. They're very colorful, they come in many sizes. It's kind of a very broad family. This is the barrel spangled tanager. Here's a glossy flower piercer that I caught taking a bath. Sapphire vented puff leg. Puff leg, why? Because they have these puffy legs. Great sapphire wing. Are we doing time-wise? Okay. Velvet purple coronet. And our buddy, the sword-billed hummingbird, where the bill is longer than the bird itself, its body. And they feed on these very long flowers. You also see what are called mountain tanagers. This is a scarlet-bellied mountain tanager. The bay-headed tanager. So tanagers, like I said, is a very broad family. Some tanagers stay low to the ground. It's sort of like our warblers. Some warblers are specialists. They like ground, some like mid, and some like canopies. This bird likes to be at the tippy top of a tree. And every time I've seen it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love to get this bird's photo. But they've always been like a little tiny dot at the very top of a tree in amongst green leaves. But we were staying at this fantastic hotel in Mindo, where we were actually, our room was at the canopy level. And we walk out of the room and I'm like, no way. And sure enough, there was a bay-headed tanager right there. And I'm like, I gotta get my camera. And I was like so nervous, but it stayed and it just worked the tree. It was getting all the bugs it could. And it was a glorious moment for me and my photography. This is, you'll see lots of different wrens, band-backed wren. Again, tanagers, golden tanager, dusky-faced tanager. Then there's barbettes. This one's red-headed barbettes.
Male and female.
Yep, male and female. Male on the left, female on the right. Gorgeous birds. Even the sparrows are beautiful. This is an orange bill sparrow. Silver-throated tanager. There are so many places to visit in Mindo. Mindo is like one of the first areas that got developed to do birding in Ecuador. It's about 2 hours outside of Quito. So for a while there, it was like you'd stay in Quito and then you would drive to Mindo and then you would drive back. But then people were figuring out that, oh, if I put a lodge here, people can stay all day long and stay night. So it's got a really nice system of all these different lodges and hotels, and some fancy, some rustic. This is a gray-breasted wood wren. One of the places we stayed at was made entirely out of bamboo. It was a biodiversity. If some of you have been there, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's really fun little place to visit. And then we've got places that just have feeders, and they want people to come, and they earn money by having people come and spend time looking at the birds at their feeders. And in this case, this place had lots of purple-throated wood stars, and they were fighting all over the place. So I caught some like arguing. And then I got an Andean emerald there, and the little wood star snuck in a drink while the Andean emerald was getting one. Then you get these crazy hummingbirds that have super long tails. In this case, this is called a violet-tailed sylph. And then you have birds that have, there's like thousands, there are almost 2,000 birds in Ecuador, and they have crazy names. And this one, they have a whole series of birds that are called spine tails because their tails are kind of sharp. This is an Azara's spine tail. And then another crazy set of birds, euphonias. This is an orange bill euphonia, and they like bananas. This one is kind of rude, eating with his mouth open. Lots of different type of creepers. They got wood creepers, you've got tree runners, you've got wood gatherers, all these crazy names. So this is a strong-billed wood creeper. And then over on the right is a shining sunbeam, a beautiful orange hummingbird, but that I always saw it from the front. And then this year I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that beautiful little purple patch. So with the light just right, you got to see the little purple patch happening. So Mindo area, you could see, has just got beautiful mountainous cloud forest, lots of trees. But this is what happens when areas get cleared out for farms. And so a lot of wildlife suffers because of that. We have worked a lot with the Hokotoko Foundation, which has some great reserves within Ecuador. And now they're trying to start a program where if you are a farmer, and let's say you own like 20 acres here, they're trying to encourage you to maybe set aside 5 acres that could get reforested so they can start to create corridors for animals, and that includes insects, mammals, birds, so that they can kind of, because everything's starting to get splintered off and getting shoved into little tiny corners, and that's their next thing. They've been setting aside land, but now they're trying to work with the local farmers to get them to think about long-term. Okay, so now we're popping into the higher elevations, the Paramos, and in this case, we're near Antisana, and they have elfin forests along with these great plains of high altitude, and little tiny birds and little tiny flowers. Right, this is one of our guides, Edwin, and that's Antisana in the background, and this is what an elfin forest looks like. Everything's kind of like tiny, but it's very rich and moist and wet. Oh, this is a great bird. We finally got to see it this time. We've been up to the same spot 2 other times, and we finally saw the rufous-bellied seed snipe. When it flew by us, it landed like 10 feet in front of us, and the thing was so well camouflaged. Tom and I are like, I saw it land. Where'd it go? Where is it? We couldn't find it, but then all of a sudden we saw a little bit of movement, and then it was just like, it was super cool to see. So this was the area, this cell phone tower is where we saw the seed snipe. And then here's another antpeta. This is the tawny antpeta. And this is a chestnut-winged syncloides. Great name, carunculated caracara. There's a juvenile caracara, carunculated, and it had just landed right next to our van and started finishing off. Its crop is, hey, stop it. Its crop is full here, but it couldn't resist. It had to finish off that rabbit leg. And so we're like, stop the van, and got some great pictures. Red crested cotinga, I love this one, tufted tit tyrant. He looks kind of like he's, mad, and then he's got his little pointy head. Grass wren, lachrymose mountain tanager, pearled tree runner, so beautiful. And then we got a pale named brush finch, paramo ground tyrant taking a bath, another stout-billed syncloides, a purple back thornbill, super tiny bird. Now we're in Cajas. Like I said, we just jumped south just because of the similar type of thing. There we saw the Ecuadorian hill star. And then here's the Andean tit spine tail. Stop it. Okay, here's the giant cone bill. Crazy flowers. Violet-throated metal tail. Road, this is a national park, but they have a major road going right through the middle of it. Then there's the lower part of the park. So different species all together you get down here, like the Andean ruddy duck. Beautiful. It just, the countryside is so beautiful. Rufous-breasted chat tyrants. Now we're in the Amazon basin. So we stayed at two places. One was Napo, very stunning, gorgeous. And we even stayed there with a movie star, Miranda Richardson. But then the other place, last time not this last time, but in 2013, we were at Sani Lodge. So two very excellent lodges. This is black skimmer, a brown-chested martin, Napo River, crazy bird called the Watsons. They're kind of their own genus, look prehistoric. They even sound prehistoric. They sound like dinosaurs. Rufescent tiger heron. When its neck is up really long, it's got striping like a tiger. Collared plovers. Green and rufous kingfisher. Capped heron. Ivory-billed arisari. And I'm sorry if I feel like I'm rushing through this. Like I said, I got a million birds. I have a hard time saying this word, ferruginous pygmy. This one was right outside our room hooting the whole day. I don't know if you can figure it out, but right in the middle is a great patoo. So part of the fun of going to these Amazon lodges is the trees are massive, and a lodge will put up a tower right next to it. And so you're like 200 feet in the air, you climb, you get up there, and there at the in the canopy, you see a whole different set of birds than you would like on the ground. And this little guy, not little, he was quite big, was in the tree the whole time. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, there's a bird there. And occasionally he would peek his eye open, but for the most part, he just kind of hung out and stayed really quiet. So while we were in the top, you could see birds like the black-fronted nunbird. Off in the distance was a king vulture, gigantic bird, just so beautiful. Oh, stunning. Even pigeons are cool. The ruddy pigeon. He was hanging out in the orchids right next to where I was standing. So here's the Sani Lodge in the tower and the guides. Now I'm really afraid of heights, so a lot of times I would be like in the middle of the deck instead of on the edges, but every once in a while I would sneak to the side. One thing that's great about birding in Ecuador and the places that we went to, we got to meet a lot of the local guides. The companies that we've been with made sure that the local guides got hired because they knew the birds way better than the companies we went through. I mean, they kind of know birds in general, they know the areas, but the local guides spend every day in the field. They know what birds they've seen when. They know their habits. They know, sometimes this bird shows up at 3 o'clock over here, and so they really help you see. They're really key to helping you see some really hard to see birds that you just don't show up. They know the birds. This is their livelihood, and they love it. They're passionate. They love the environment. This was so cute on our hike. Inside this tree was a little owl monkey peeking out. And then it's not just about birds and monkeys, but there's wonderful insects and frogs and bats and it's really a rich environment, and it's hot and it's buggy, and it's just so it's like it's just totally a sensory. It's an amazing sensory thing. And then the birds also, like parrots, because they eat toxic seeds, will go and search out of clay licks. So a lot of these lodges have clay licks that they go and visit regularly. So they know, again, the timing of the clay lick. You get there early, and you got your parrot that's like the brave one will go down there, and then all of a sudden, after a few have gone down there, it's just flooded with parrots and parakeets trying to get the clay to handle, to kind of offset the toxins that they've been eating. All right, so reason why I picked this slide is you see this massive tree here. When this tribe, before the lodge was established, the Ecuador army would come in and hunt out all their animals and fish out all their waters, and they got fed up. So they did things like cut trees down in areas so that made it really hard for the army to come in and basically pilfer what they felt was theirs. Once these are native owned lodges, which means that their people don't have to work in the oil fields or go work off somewhere for months at a time. They could work at the lodge for 5 days and be home for 5 days. It meant that they got a school. It meant that they got doctors. These lodges have changed their lives. So they welcome tourists. They love tourists. They love to show off their environment. This is their heritage. And they made it super wonderful to be there. Another clay lick. This one wasn't as fancy as the last one. This one was just right off the river, but it was just fun. You just sat there in your boat watching. So to get to those lodges, you took a plane ride from Quito to Coca, and then you took like a 3-hour boat ride to your lodge. And a lot of times the boat ride included, hey, let's go along the riverbank, and heck, there's some birds to see. And this is in a treetop, the plum-throated cotinga. Of course, lots of vultures. All right, we're hopping down now to southern Ecuador. All right, I think we're doing okay time-wise. So I talked a little bit about Hokutoco Foundation, and their reserves. They have several lodges that they themselves run. Some of the lodges are on land that they bought from farmers, and then the farmers themselves or the landowners then now run the lodges. So it ends up working out for the people who had owned the land, and then it provides the local economy with a nice little cash flow. The person who does your laundry is happy that you're there. The people who feed you are happy that you're there, because it means that they're actually earning a living wage versus it's a very hard life in Ecuador for a lot of people. And these little lodges really make their lives better. And that then moves on to, they tell their cousin, and then their cousin is happy for them. So then they are happy for people who go birding. And so it's kind of a goodwill thing that builds up, over the years. All right, so here we are on the road in at the Umbrella Lodge, which happens to have this fantastic umbrella bird called, which is the long wattled umbrella bird. This is a male, and this wattle actually extends quite far down, and it's almost like listening to like somebody blowing through a beer bottle or something. Yeah, it's like this, ooh, and it's low, and then it throws itself while it's doing it. The call, it's in it. You've got 15 minutes, then it flies off, and you don't see it for the rest of the day. That Umbrella Lodge is known for its hummingbird feeders and its fantastic hummingbirds. This is a white-necked Jacobin. Here's the hummingbirds. Sometimes these little tiny wood stars, because they're too tiny, will come in, and then they just like hover down, and then they come back up. It's very hilarious to watch. There's a brown violet ear. So violet ears are known, when they get irritated, these little patches on the side of their head flare out. So there's sparkling violet ears, brown violet ears. I think there's even a green violet ear. This is a brown. This is the bird I just saw this last year, the white whiskered puff bird. I went on a little hike by myself, and puff birds are sneaky. They just kind of pop up, and then they just sit there and watch you for the longest time, trying to figure you out. And so I was able to get off some nice photos of it. Even the palm tanager's darling. Green honey creeper. The only bird that, most birds are named for the male. This is a female. The male is actually kind of like a beautiful blue-green. In this case, the female is this gorgeous green with this red eye. And you see the yellow-throated toucan. Violet-bellied hummingbird. Oh, I love this bird's name, rufous-headed chakalaka. When we were visiting, there was a juvenile ornate hawk eagle, and he just sat there and cried the whole time for his parents to come feed him. So he was very cooperative in getting his photo. All right, here's the bird that started it all. This is the Hokotoko ampita. It's huge. That bird is like this big. It's, the giant ampita looks puny compared to this guy. Back in 1997, Robert Ridgely hired Nemblina Forest to help him do like a bird survey. So one of the women that we know from our tours that we've done, Mercedes, was along on this tour, and this is in southern Ecuador. It took a while to get there. They were doing a survey, and he thought it was a dog barking, and Mercedes and her friend, another woman, said, no, it's not, it's another bird. And and he kind of argued with them. Well, they proved him right. And not only was it another bird, it was a bird that has never been like discovered. Of course, the locals knew about it, but he kind of called it towards brought it to science. So we're at Casa Simpson now, and so they set up a spot where you could go watch the Hokotoko, and they took a page out of Angel Paz's playbook, and they're now feeding it, so it does show up regularly, and it's just a magnificent bird, and it pretty much started the birding ecotourism in Ecuador. Here he is again. I think we saw two that day, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two different ones.
Yeah. And sometimes if you go to visit, they'll show up with their young. And again, these are wild birds. They're not pets. But they they have been trained to come so that you could take in their wonder. Casa Simpson, beautiful lodge, stunning, but it rains a lot there. I think I read that it's like 100 and some inches a year fall there. It's a lot of rain. So we dodged a lot of rain on this last trip, and but saw fantastic birds. So this chestnut cap brushfinch, the Inca jay. I love jays. They're just so curious and they allow you to take great photos. Okay, now we're at Harupe, which is a dry forest. Amazing. It's like, it's dry. It's like crunchy leaf dry. We were in just the start of the rainy seasons coming upon us, and I couldn't believe it was dusty, dry, but there was lots and lots of really cool birds to see. So we got the plumbeous thrush here, speckled hummingbird. Here's a rainbow star frontlet, white-tailed jay, red masked parakeet. All right, now we're moving on to the coast. So that's Salinas, Isla de Plata, and Amble. Now, Isla de Plata, they call the poor man's Galapagos, because it's like a day trip. You go out there, you see lots of cool birds. There's like fricate birds, blue-footed boobies, Nazca boobies, red-footed boobies. Salinas is coastal, so you see a lot of coastal birds. And Ayampe is where we is like this extremely wet little valley along the coast in amongst this extremely dry forest. It was amazing. All right, so these are ibises, white ibises? I can't remember anymore. They're ibises. So here we got American oyster catcher on the beach. So this is in Salinas, and these are salt flats where they dry out the area for salt to harvest. And there was like thousands and thousands of Wilson's phalaropes, and they were flying left and right and left because a peregrine falcon had just flown overhead and they couldn't settle down. And then there's amongst them, they were flying around the flamingos. So there was the flamingos right there. All right, now we're on the island, and it was like a 45-minute ride, boat ride.
In a fast boat.
In a fast boat. It's very dry, but I guess if you're there in the rainy season, it's like really buggy. So I'll take the dry season. So these guys were so adorable. They did their little dances. They did their little neck things. They croaked. They had babies. There's all stages of life going on. There, the male and female. I believe the male has the darker blue, but he also has, if you look at their eyes, the bigger iris than the female. That was the only way you could tell them apart, along with their voices. But you're just making they matched each other's movements. And this is how close you were to them. They're like, and they didn't care you were there. They would just do their little thing. And if you got, maybe if they were on a nest, they might like scold you if you walked too close. But sometimes they put the nest right on the trail. You also saw things like collared warbling finches there. And this guy didn't get the memo because that is a blue-footed booby, and he's at the Nazca booby trail. This is a Nazca booby with a chick. Beautiful white with these yellow eyes, so stunning. Oh, then we got to walk along a cliff edge, and we were very lucky. The red-billed tropic birds were just starting to do their mating ritual. So we got to witness them fly by, and they would match each other's movements, and they would go across the cliffs, and then they fly up, fly down, and they were super fast. So I think I took about 1,000 photos, and 5 of them turned out. So here's one of the 5. And here's the other one. They were just fantastic. Oh my gosh. In that tail, oh, so beautiful. And then, like I said, fricate birds were nesting there. It's kind of a sad thing a little bit that, so the blue-footed boobies nest on the ground, the red-footed nest in the bushes. They don't nest on the ground. Well, now the fricate birds have moved in. They've kind of discovered this great place, and they're taking over all the nesting areas that once were where the red-footed boobies were. So that means what would have had maybe a colony of 300 red-footed boobies, now we only saw one female and a chick. But we saw thousands of these fricate birds and their chicks. All right, so now we're at Ayampe. I told you about this very wet little area within this dry forest, and we were seeing the Esmeraldas wood star.
Second smallest hummingbird.
Yeah, so here he is. I don't know if you could see him. And we had our guides, but we also had our guide hired a local guide, and that guy knew a tree was blooming the day before he saw that the Esmeraldas was hanging out there. So we went right there. So that's part of what they do. Why he was hired was so that he scoped everything out ahead of time, and he knew that due to the bird's behavior, we would see this bird. But it's not automatic. We waited 2 hours to see this bird in the rain, on a very muddy road. But we saw it. It was fantastic. It was a great moment, and it's like super tiny, and it moves really slow. So it was easy to make out from all the other hummingbirds that flit around like crazy. It just kind of went. And this is what its nest is. So it's not I hesitate to call it rare, but it's not, I would say it's rare. Yeah, it's rare. Not that many are around.
Endemic.
And it's endemic to this one area, and it's losing its habitat. And so in this area, people are hired to keep track of them. Okay, we're getting towards the end here, folks. The laughing falcon, about the size of a peregrine falcon. I didn't hear it laugh, but it was a beautiful bird. All right, now we're at an area that's got lots of water, but of course, water is a precious commodity. Even though we were in cloud forest, rainforest, the whole thing, when you're in this dry forest, water is a precious thing, and there's lots of farms. And so there's a lot of pressure on these marshes, which of course is really important for all these birds. So they're, again, Hokutoku is trying to help out some local NGOs to kind of preserve these areas so that, farmers can have water and the birds can have water. So we saw lots of black-necked stilts and egrets, great snowy cattle. Here's some more black-necked stilts, so pretty. Snail kites, snowy egret, anhingas, gold-billed tern, purple gallinule. All right, now, hopefully you're like jazzed and you're thinking, gosh, I want to go. I've got some companies you should talk to. One is Nembolina Forest, Javier, and the other one is Puembo Birding Garden, and that's Mercedes. They used to be married, and they ran Nembolina Forest together. Well, sadly, they got a divorce. They're still friends, and they work together. A lot of times, if you work with Nembolina Forest, you might be staying at her in the Puembo Birding Garden. But now she's starting to get back into doing tours herself, and both of them are wonderful people, super, super nice, very helpful. Also, how you could check out, like the Sierra Club does birding tours. The woman that we've gone through for many years is retiring from doing birding tours, but her daughter is now taking it up, Jenny Moon. So there's lots of great companies out there. There's also, you know, the bigger companies like Field Guides and, you know, Victory Manual and stuff like that. And while I encourage you to look at the smaller companies like Nembolina and Puembo, those other companies aren't huge. But what happens is that when you use Nembolina and Puembo, you're actually moving your money directly into Ecuador. Whereas the other companies, yeah, I mean, again, I'm not going to discourage you from using those bigger companies because they're not like 3M. They're, you know, they're small companies. But this way, the money stays right in Ecuador, and and that's a good thing. Your money goes a long ways there in terms of doing bird, you know, helping the birds out.
They do advertise trips, but they also do special trips, and it can be as few as 2 people.
Yeah,
Terry and I have gone on a trip where it's just Terry and I and a driver and a bird guide.
yeah.
Or it can be 4 friends or 6 friends or 10 friends.
Or you can say, do you have a group? Do you have a schedule, and is there room on a group? Group birding can be really fun. You get to know lots of different people, and yeah, sure, there might be some people on it that irritate you, but then you find other people that are your best buddies. We've made a lot of really good friends by doing the bigger groups, and you know, it's just really fun to do it. It's just fun to get down into these countries and just, you know, immerse yourself in their food, and like I said, even their bugs. It's just it makes you feel alive. It's great. All right. Not sure what to do here, Stuart.
Questions?
Yeah, is there questions? Should I stop sharing?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Terry and Tom. If you have questions, anybody, if you would like to type that question into the chat and I can read that, that'll just keep the order of questions.
I have a question.
Noel.
There's a question.
I think
And
you know where, Noel.
All right, Ellen, because you're here, why don't you ask your question?
Okay, Mike, from this presentation, you and Tom know lots about birds, and you knew a lot about birds before you went down to Ecuador. How do these tours work if you are more of a novice birder and you aren't really familiar with the birds of a different country?
Well, that's a very good question. You know what, Ellen? When the first trip we took, I didn't know anything. I mean, the reason why I was interested is because we were in Peru, not on a birding trip. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything about these birds, but there's so many and it's so fantastic. So that's the reason why you go on a birding trip, because the guides there help you find, you know, they know the birds in the area. They know how fantastic they are. They want you to see them. They you know, they're rewarded when you see that bird and you go, oh my gosh, I am in heaven. And so it's just really, it helps. They're there to help you. You don't be afraid to ask. Like, I didn't see it. They'll spend like a half hour to make sure that you see that bird. I mean, they spend a lot of time making sure you get to see it. And if you are a person that have seen the bird already, that's okay, because then you can take in other birds while that guide is helping somebody find their bird. So yeah, it don't feel like you have to know it all, because you're not. I mean, there's like 1,800 species. There's no way you're going to know it all at all.
A third of the birds you see are going to be at the lodges. You don't
Yeah.
even have to leave the lodge to see at least 30% of the birds. And each lodge has its famous birds, and each one's different, and each one will tell you and explain those birds to you. There's signage everywhere, people telling you what the famous birds are at each lodge.
Yeah, and they love their birds. They want you to see their birds. That to them, that brings them joy when you get to see their birds and enjoy their environments.
Each town has sculptures,
Oh, yeah.
statues
Yeah.
around the town with
the
the
bird.
most famous bird in that area.
Yeah, so it's Ecuador is just really a great. It's sort of like the gateway to getting out and seeing, going to other places like maybe going to Peru or Colombia or whatever. But if you're thinking about dabbling in going somewhere else other than America, or, you know, to go birding, Ecuador is such a great place to start. They really have it down pat. They know what they're doing. All right. Oh, is that volcano erupting behind you? No, that was just a very cloudy. It's usually socked in, and then the clouds parted, and we're like, get a picture.
It erupted in 1802, and Humboldt came there and spent the summer to see it.
Yeah.
And it's almost 19,000 feet.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And what time of year do you go? For Ecuador, the time to go would be like late September through November, because that's starting to get spring rainy season starts in November, and we were kind of there right when the rainy season was starting, and it was raining. All right. Oh, all right. What camera? I have a Canon 7D Mark II, and I have a 100 to 400 lens with a 1.4 converter. And I've had it so long, I was worried that it would poop out on me on this long trip. And it did give me fits and starts. So I'm looking at now going mirrorless, but that I have to raise some funds for that. Oh, stop it, Noelle. Noelle James is one of my very, very best friends, and she just cracks me up. She keeps telling me that I should produce a book. Where the locals farming? Okay, in Mindo area, a lot of them were dairy farmers. So they'd have to clear the land for their cows. And then we'd also saw artichoke farms,
Corn.
potato farms, corn,
Lots of corn.
Southern Ecuador corn. And it'd be like so dry, or like, how can they grow corn here? And it's nothing like how we grow corn here. It is like you got a corn plant that's here, and then another corn plant that's like 3 feet away. It's like so splotchy, and
It's grown on a steep hillside with all by hand. No tractors.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the other thing I want to bring up about Ecuador, because it is a lot of small farms. Because of that, they don't use a lot of pesticides, and the insect life is very rich there. Hence, the birds really do well, because when there are forests in areas, it's not facing the catastrophe that we have happening here, where we, in the summertime when you're driving, you don't even get birds on your windshield. I mean, not birds, but insects on your windshield anymore. So it's the moths. Mindo is known for its moths. I mean, gigantic moths like this big and super colorful, and gigantic bugs and butterflies and yeah, amazing. Is that Peroni? That looks like a Peroni joke.
Terry, if you
Costa
want
Rica's on our bucket list. We haven't been
if you
there
wanted to read the questions out, if you're reading the questions yourself, you can read them out loud.
Oh, sure. All right. That story about the corn was amazing. Ha ha ha. All right. Other crops: coffee. Yep. Bananas. Yep. Cacao. Yep. Very good. I forgot about those.
And a lot of those crops, the coffee, the cacao, nowadays is being planted within the forest, or they're letting the forest and those crops commingle together.
Because that's better.
The farming is really changing there because of that.
Yeah, they're really pushing for organic cacao farming. So that was a thing that we saw a lot when we were there, was these little lodges where you could buy 100% block of cacao or chocolate that they themselves, artisanal chocolate. So it was That's becoming the next big thing. They're really trying to promote coffee that's grown in a shade forest, shade grown coffee, shade grown cacao. Yeah,
And definitely bananas. Ecuador is one of the biggest banana producers there is.
yeah, we saw lots of bananas.
Ecuador is the size of Colorado, and it has getting close to 4 million people.
I think it's more than that
So it's
even.
very,
No, I think it has 20 million. 20 million people. It's like the
No.
densest country in South America. Yeah,
yeah, it is. You're right. It's like 19, almost 20.
yeah. But, oh, and then one thing else too, that surprised me when we were in the southern Ecuador part is a lot of hillsides that came down, landslides, and then they just never cleared them. So you'd have like a major road through the mountains, and then there'd be like one little cleared off road area that that you had to wind your way through. And then, you might not even, there could be a car coming, but you wouldn't know it because it was be around the bend. It was like crazy. And there wasn't a single straight road until you hit the coastal area. It was so windy. Yeah. Took you 4 hours to go like 100 kilometers. All right. Oh, which was our favorite bird? Somebody asked, is it like picking your children was your favorite bird? Can't do it. I can't. You can't make me pick a favorite.
It'd be really, really hard.
I can tell you what favorite type of bird I like are the ant birds. They're so hard to see that when you finally get to see one, and if you get a good picture, that is like the best reward ever, is because they're so sneaky and quiet. And same with tapaculus. All right. Are there lots of university students that study environmental issues? That's a good question. We weren't in it. We were at like little lodges that were more like the local people were working. I think there are students. We did come across one guy who worked for an environmental agency, and he was there monitoring one type of bird. So there's people down there doing great work. We just never ran into them. Yeah. How long were we there? All 3 times, I think we were in Ecuador at least 20 days, sometimes 28. This last time it was 20 days, 21 days. So, but that's just me. That's my preference. I like, once I'm down there, I like really being down there a long time, because it takes a bit of time to get down there and settle in. And then once you're there, you just get lost. You just kind of get lost in all of it. And it's amazing. It's sad to go. It's sad to come back here, but then when you come back here, you're happy to be back. So yeah.
And we occasionally see a North American bird down there spending the winter.
Yeah.
And our guides go, "Oh, it's one of yours."
Yeah.
All right. Looks like
All
the
right.
questions have petered out and we're right at 8 o'clock. So I want to thank you both for presenting. Appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you. So we've been to Brazil and Peru, if anybody wants those pictures.
We'll have to have you back for another evening. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It was fun.
Thanks.
Yeah, leave.